Welcome to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, and joined as always by...
And me, Rob, to talk about them special teams.
Oh, yes.
Oh, so special.
So special. Everyone's special, though. Everyone gets a trophy. Except
Yes.
the Eagles. Screw you, Eagles. And the Cowboys
Go
have
home.
like it's already the rustiest ship that they got them. All right, guys. So, yeah, today we're going to break down, as he mentioned there, the special teams for you guys. And listen, this is not just here's our kicker, here's our punter. Like, we're going to go over, like, here's the coverage team people, here's the long snapper. We're going to talk a little Casey Kreiter here. Oh, yes. And then, of course, we're also going to go over all the news of the day, guys. We lost a Giant. We gained a Giant. We had
Fallen Giants.
someone apparently stick a cat in a blender and put a music video to it. We're going to talk all about this stuff here because that's basically what it sounded like, what I heard.
With auto-tune.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start off here with, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, potentially one of the best Giants on the roster is the scary part because he's that good at what he does. And that's Mr. Graham Gano. What do you know over here? Because
What do you know?
he's been in the league quite a while now. He's been like, a borderline Pro Bowl kicker for many, many years now. Never quite gets in that Pro Bowl, but it's always in that conversation as one of the best kickers. 37 years old, 6'2", 202 pounds. I don't even know why we're giving height and weight for a kicker, to be honest with you. Like, he can really tackle somebody.
Listen, 20 pounds is in his right foot. It really lets some boot to that leg of his.
6'2". He must have some long legs to kick the ball with.
He's got the leverage of the swing of the pendulum.
He's got legs. Originally an undrafted free agent from Florida State, signed by Baltimore there to start off his career. Was 11 of 17 last year and field goal kicking, 8 of 8 extra points. 28 kickoffs with an 82.1 touchback percentage here. Now, I know the 11 of 17 sounds really bad, and it does. It does sound really, really bad. Because it was really, really bad. But
it was also very, very, very bad for him. Not just
he also had the left knee injury last year. But let's be honest, we know he was playing when he shouldn't have been playing. That last game especially, what the hell the Giants medical team was thinking they're going to trot this guy out there to go kick the ball when, quite frankly, the season was over. I understand it a little more. We'd be like, hey, can you do a little bit more? We'll just try, bro. We'll go for a championship here. Like, I don't necessarily agree with that because you have long-term ramifications from that potentially, but I get it a little more. The season was over, guys. We weren't winning a damn thing. Except the Tommy DeVito fandom that everybody had. That was winning everybody over. But otherwise, there was nothing we were playing for. Like, if anything, we wanted to lose to get a better draft position, Like, that's where we're at. I don't know. But I gave him credit for trying to go through it. Because he did. Like, he played until he couldn't play. Like, literally physically could not play. So,
it was brutal.
You don't hear many people go, that kicker, he's got some heart in this game. You don't hear that very often. But yeah, he does. He does. And, we'll have to see this year coming up if he changes his number. Because if you notice, we showed the picture, he was number 9.
9?
Neighbors has also picked number 9 for his number right now in practice. There's 2 9s.
Oh, double
like
niner.
The song 99 Red Balloons. So he might change his number. Bleed Neighbors might pick a different number. So, we'll see on that there. But the good news is he's already kicking in the OTAs. I don't know if he's 100%. Listen, we talked about it before. OTA reports are mostly fluff articles. We don't necessarily trust a lot of the stuff that comes out. But the fact that he's kicking, that's not too shabby. I'll take that.
Correct.
That's a good start. So The key questions we got here with him is, first, will he return to his usual form? Because if he has a season like he had last year, that's not good, guys.
He's probably not going to be a Giant again.
No. He might not make it through the season if he kicked like he did last year, to be very frank with you. And I hate to say that way. I don't think that's what's going to happen. Don't get me wrong. But whenever there's an injury and you're talking about a 37-year-old player and it's a knee injury, when the knee is a very important part of kicking the ball, regardless of support knee or kicking knee at that point, they both have an important function. You gotta wonder, is he gonna return to form? Because I'll tell you, when I hurt myself, and I was at 37 years old, that was 5 years ago.
So old.
Back to form. Hell, I hurt my back in my early 30s. I was never the same again. So I mean, that's just what happens at that age. I know, not to make the 20-year-olds cringe that are listening, but guess what? 30s when you start to die. Like this is
32 when it goes downhill.
Yeah, like it's gonna happen. So
30, I was still competing in sports. 32 was the back surgery.
Oh yes. So it's a matter of, like I said, will he return to form? And even if he does, the other question is, at his age, how much longer can we count on him? He's 37, guys. I know he's
also. I was about to say he's also in the position where he's not usually getting hit, and the NFL has really made it clear that they're trying to protect the kicker, hence roughing the kicker.
And you also, though, have some kickers that kick into their early 40s at that point.
Yeah.
Like 41, 42, and it's when around there, they'll stop.
No, so you could be the Tom Brady of kickers and go to
57.
Yes.
57 is the proper time to retire.
He's going to start lining up a cop pipe.
Hey, bring me in chip shots. I can get all the chip shots in. I'm like the Punter of the kicking world. But that's where it's at, is that those are really two concerns I have, is does he come back 100% and how much longer? Because as much as I'm also saying, some kickers played in the early 40s at that point, not all of them do. And when Father Time kicks, it just happens. I didn't mean to do it. I caught my pause.
I see what you did there.
I didn't mean to do that. But when it kicks you, it just kicks you in the teeth, and you have no choice but to deal with it. And you don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, granted, different position, but this is always the example I use when I say when it's time, it's time. Like Peyton Manning is a classic example of that. Like the guy went from all pro overnight to just. He got dragged to that second Super Bowl. He got dragged to that second Super Bowl. I'm sorry, it wasn't even average. Brock Osweiler took the job from him at some point. Yeah. That's what happens when time hits. Time hits when time hits. So hopefully time doesn't hit this guy for a while, because like I said, he's been inconsistent. There's a couple of years ago, you could have made the case that Graham Gano was the best New York Giant.
Yeah, definitely.
And you would not necessarily be wrong. That's a really scary thought, by the way, guys. But literally, there was that talk of, is he the best player in the Giants roster? And it was a legit question. There was a legit conversation about it. So, like I said, hopefully he's good to go. Hopefully he's back to his old self again, where he's just a guy you can count on, a guy who's pretty much automatic. Like I said, if you got a guy who's going to fight to stay playing to the point where he has to basically be dragged off the field, he's a guy who's always going to work his tail off to get back to playing again.
Correct.
So I have the utmost confidence that he will be back to normal. My only concern is, does Father Time hurt his rehabilitation?
Yes. And when you say normal, is it going to be his normal of pre-injury or his new normal, which...
Well, no, I don't want new normal. New normal is not normal yet. It will be the new normal once it becomes the normal, but it's not normal yet.
But that's what I'm saying. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure that this was clear and specified.
That's not normal.
Will be his new normal, which will be his normal.
And it's not normal yet, but it'll be normal then once it's normal.
Well, will be his normal, not then, because then it's his past.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, let's talk about one of our favorite Scotsmen. And no, not Graham Gano. He is Scottish as well. But I mean the Scottish Hammer, Jamie Gillan, who went from being the scourge of Rob and I.
Especially you. My guy. Never seen a man hate.
You know what? I think it was still validated. I do. I think it was validated, the hate, because the man just sat there and just he thought the game was kick the ball as far as you can, regardless of position, regardless of corners, regardless of anything like that, you know. But he learned a lot this year. I feel like I really do feel like he's came into his own. Keep in mind, he's still 26 years old, so he's still somewhat young. Keep in mind, he didn't grow up playing football. He was playing.
I was about to say he's a rugby player, which is a different sport. Granted, they kick the ball like that, but it's a different sport.
Yeah, they do. So like I said, he's still 26 years old, 6'1", 270 pounds. Sorry, 207 pounds, not 270.
That'd be amazing.
Like the Jerry Lorenz of punters of. Crazy thing is, I would say, Rob, take a stab at how many punts you had last year, but you got the notes in front of you. I'm not going to let you cheat like that. I think
over under 100.
It's close to there. 95 punts last year, guys. 95 punts. That's absolutely insane. He also kicked a field goal at one point when we were running out of kickers because we ran into kickers on a regular basis there. But that's like almost 6 punts a game, guys. That's a lot of punts. You want to talk about how inept our offense was? Hello, there's the evidence right there. And thank God Jamie Gillan was probably the most improved Giant on that roster last year. Because if he wasn't, and he played the way he played the year before, oh my.
It would have been a way longer season.
Yeah. 46 yards per punt, 42 net yards per punt. So do the math. It's not very difficult. That's averaging 4 return yards per punt. You're doing your job as a punter and as a punt coverage team if you're only allowing 4 yards per punt. That's not bad.
No.
What's interesting, though, is yards per punt was down by 1 yard last year. But he also focused on location so much more than he had on power the previous year. His net yards per punt actually went up by 3. So he was 1 yard shorter on his kick. But the end position and how much yardage between the return and the punt went up by 3. That's what I mean by when I say he was a guy who was really focusing. How many drives have you seen end within the 3 yard line? It's not something you don't see, guys. You know, and that's the difference sometimes of 4 points in a game, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown.
Correct.
4 points can make a huge difference in a game, guys. 36.8% of his punts were within the 20 yard line. What we complained about the year prior at that point, 22, every single one of them in the end zone, in the end zone, in the end zone, in the end zone. It was insanity. 36.8 punts. That's his career best. His touchback percentage went from 12.2% in 22 down to 4.2 in 23, guys. That's a massive, massive difference. The return yards went from 347 yards that on punts being returned that were kicked by him in 22 to 283 this past year. That's a pretty significant drop. But what's really more amazing is he also punted the ball 21 more times this year than he had the prior year. So they gave up 347 yards in return yards on 74 punts in 22. Just 283 on 95. And a lot of that, honestly, and I know it's not a one-man thing. Like, there's a coverage team. There's other aspects of that, guys. Don't get me wrong.
It's also the placement.
It's exactly that. Exactly that. He was punting, not just kicking the crap out of the ball.
Yeah. Let's be real. Like, we talked about it 2 years ago. What did he do? Straight down the fairway. Listen, he's playing golf. If he was playing golf like the other, Scottish sport, yeah, fantastic. Now he's angling the ball, putting in hard placements for the return team to actually get yardages out of it, and then which obviously helps his number. Plus, with our other team, the other guys in special teams helping stop.
Yeah, like I said, the coverage team gets some of the credit for that. I'm not trying to give it all to him, but you saw the difference in the placement. It was pretty obvious that a lot of that was him.
There was angles. He had angles.
Exactly. Angles. He's also got legs. We'll keep on doing ZZ Top for every segment today.
Thanks for days.
All right. Let's talk about the unsung hero, the guy that nobody ever talks about. And when no one talks about you, but when no one talks about you when you play this position, you're doing something right. And that's the long snapper, Casey Crowder. And I'm sorry, but if that's not the most awkward picture I could have possibly found of him like that.
Everyone loves a good snapper.
33 years old now, 6'1", 250 pounds. Originally signed as the undrafted free agent from Iowa by the Cowboys back in 2014. He was a Pro Bowler back in 2018 when he was with Denver. He's been our long snapper now since 2020. And what it really boils down to is the Giants haven't had any issues with snapping the ball. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
100%.
That's what I'm saying. This is one of those positions that if we know you by name, we're either a really big fan of the team, not of the long snapper, because the long snappers have no fans. I'm sorry.
I'm going to get his jersey just now.
It'd be fun. But either, like I said, you're somebody who's a really big fan of the team, or he's a guy who messes up all the time. And Casey Crowder just does not mess up. I mean, you can go back to even like, the issues with the occasional blocks on the guy we just talked about a moment ago, Jamie Gillan. The snap wasn't the problem. He was holding on the ball too long. But you look at when the placements are when there's a field goal being performed. That ball lands right where it's got to land every single time. You don't see a lot of pressure up the middle. So that's the other part of it. You don't just think people just think about the long snapper as the guy who snaps the ball. He also has to block when he's done snapping. There is an added part to that. It's not just snap the ball and walk off the field. The job is that easy. I go for it.
You have a long snapper?
I don't know. I've been told.
Whoa.
Hello.
Anna.
But yeah, like I said, I think we're going to keep him, obviously, but I guess the question we talked about with Graham Gano also comes with him. 33 years old. How much longer does he play? Probably a couple more years, guys.
Yeah. I mean, he's a special teams guy, so it's not like he's seen the field as much as, a regular center or whoever. Like he's...
Yeah. But usually like the mid-30s is when those guys are done. If I remember correctly, Zach Diassi was, 36 when he retired, I want to say?
Something like that, yeah.
I could be wrong. I don't know that off the top of my head because I wasn't planning on talking about that. But
we're talking about the longevity of your long snapper. Sometimes you get into the 40s, but the flashes could come in the late 30s.
Well, Zach Diassi is 40 now, so he'd been 36 when he retired. I was actually dead on right according to what I'm seeing here. Yeah, he was 35 years old as last season, but he was 36 in training camp, which is when he retired. Training camp in 2020 when he lost the job to Casey Crowder. It all goes full circle.
Oh.
It's a circle.
The snapper.
It's the circle of snapper.
First, and it moves us all.
I'm like better than Northwest of this song. Wow, poor kid. Anyway, let's move on to talking about the fun part of it here. Because listen, there's a fun time watching when you have a really dynamic punt returner in the game of football. And I know kickoff returns have kind of been ruined to a certain degree by the NFL and the rules changing, and then worried about hits in the head and concussions and all that kind of fun stuff here. Punt returns are still fun and they're still exciting. So we got to ask the question, who should return punts for the Giants? Now we have a picture there on there that kind of tells you the first guy we're going to talk about here. That's Gunnar Olszewski. We got to talk about him because last year he saved the punt team there. Basically, like he saved the punt return team. Like that was an embarrassment. He comes into us there after playing a couple games with the Steelers. Overall in the year, mostly with us, but like I said, a couple games with the Steelers, 24 returns, 11.7 yards per return, and 1 touchdown. For his career, 98 returns, 11.9 yards per return, and 2 touchdowns. But we can't just look at him, guys. because he is a returner. He hasn't caught a ball in 4 years in the offense. I think it's like that. Like,
yeah,
he's not a actual wide receiver. We kind of group him in there, but he's not. He's a return specialist, 100% basically. Now they've talked about him during OTAs, how he's kind of popped into practice much more as a receiver. I think the Giants have kind of told him, we need somebody who plays the offense.
Yeah, you can't be a one-trick pony.
Yeah. The Joe Shane days of having 5 roster spots for special teams guys. We're not going to have 3 fullbacks on the roster again. Like, this has got to be changed up. Got to be changed up. So let's look at other options of who, at least it's on the roster now, that could make sense to be a punt returner. You got Isaiah McKenzie, who obviously does provide more as a receiver than Olszewski has by a decent amount there. He's been a legit backup tail end, of the depth chart kind of receiver there at that point. Last year with the Colts, he had 23 returns, 8.9 yards per return. So not quite as good as Olszewski, but not an embarrassment either. For his career, 81 returns, 8.9 yards per return. So he's been doing basically the last year what he does for his career. Was kind of a typical what you expect from him kind of thing. Again, the difference is he provides something on offense, whereas Olszewski doesn't. Now, they could keep both for all I know. Who knows? We'll see how things, see which way the cookie crumbles there. But
that's the way the cookie crumbles.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Walter Cronkite. That was such a good movie, Bruce Almighty.
Yes.
We got a couple other options there, and they're all coming out of the running back room, actually. Tyrone Tracy Jr., the rookie we got from Purdue last season while at Purdue, had 3 returns for 4.7 yards per return. We have, I hate to say this, but I'm going to include him because
you have to. You have to.
He did a horrible job last year, so he's probably more of your emergency option.
Yeah.
But Eric Gray
going up.
7 returns, 4 yards per return, 4 yards per return last year. So was not good. We didn't like him. That's why we got Gunnar Olszewski. I'm going to give you guys an off the wall kind of weird option as well. And that's Dante Turbo Miller. Now keep in mind, he really hasn't played organized football since 21. It's been that long.
But it's double time.
It's double time. It is not Puma. Getting the chopper. But back then he did return 1 punt for 2 yards. So he's a guy that, when you're doing those kind of drills, you might throw him in there. Just say, hey, we want you to just be cross-training this just in case you have a couple injuries. An emergency kind of scenario. I wouldn't think he's in the running for the starter being role. I think one of the two, either Gunner or McKenzie, is going to get it. I think one of those two will be your starter. And probably one of those two will make the roster, and one of those two will not make the roster. Unless they have the spot to do it.
I was going to say, depending on the availability of the spot and what's going on leading up to the, when we have to cut down to the 52-man roster, it's going to depend on which guy stays and which guy goes.
It depends also on how these other guys do. And we're going to talk a minute about the kickoff return, but you need 2 kickoff returners usually in the formations. You might need both these guys.
Yeah.
So, so we'll see what happens there. So let's get into that, talking about the kickoff returns here, which it has been, listen, it turned into one of the most exciting things in the NFL to one of the most boring things in the NFL.
Womp womp.
But let's talk about it. Who should return kicks for the kickoffs for the Giants here? And you can see the man in the picture there is the first guy we're to talk about. We talked about him with the punt return. Because a lot of these names, to be honest, are going to be very similar, of course. And the first one is Isaiah McKenzie. Last year with the Colts, just 6 returns, but averaged 25.3 yards per return. On his career, 56 kickoff returns for 22.6 yards per return. So he's got the best resume on the roster, to be honest, for that kind of stuff, which is kind of a little scary because, let's be honest here, he did 6 last year. He's got just a 22.6 yards per carry, return average for his career. Not great, guys. That's not great. But again, it's kickoff returns. It doesn't matter. They're killing the kickoffs.
Yeah, it's
they don't want returns.
No one wants returns.
They want touchbacks. They want no concussions. Plus you got the new rules this year and everything. Everything's changing.
It's like college. It's almost like a mixture of college rules and crazy NFL rules.
It's just craziness all around.
Yeah.
You got also, of course, Gunnar Olszewski again. We're kind of flip-flopping these two here. He had just 2 returns last year with us for 12 yards per return. Not very good, obviously. 41 returns for his career at 22 yards per return overall. I include him because he's got the second most experience veteran-wise. But who I think it'll actually be is, assuming we keep these 3 guys that we're starting to talk about here. We do somehow keep McKenzie and Olszewski both. I think Olszewski is not going to get this spot. He'd be strictly a punt returner. And I think Tyrone Tracy Jr. is the guy who would go ahead and be there as the second kickoff returner. In Purdue last year, 16 returns for 25.5 yards per return. Again, that's college. You expect a little difference there for college and NFL, but he's got a little experience there. Not too shabby. And if you want to talk about guys that could do it, that really haven't done it lately, we talked about that with Dante Turbo Miller there for the punt return. Same thing applies with the kickoff return. He did 4 kickoff returns to 21 at Columbia, 15.8 yards per return. You got Deshaun Corbin if he happens to make the roster, which who knows the way we're cutting running backs right now.
Yeah.
Hasn't returned a kick since college, guys. But that was 21, the same last year that Turbo played an actual college season. 21 at Florida State. He had 7 returns for 18.3 yards per return. And then, of course, we got the guy that nobody wants to see ever again, Eric Gray. Last year had 4 returns for 14.5 yards per return. So, like I said,
his mama wants to see him.
Well, yeah, for Mother's Day, maybe to get a present, and then he can go home again. But I think I just dislike him so much. And it's sad. It's not even his fault. It really isn't. I just dislike the draft pick so much. And it's like he's done nothing to invalidate my opinion. And I get pissed off every time I see him because I'm like, here's what we reached for that we shouldn't have. Could have had Puka Nacua. Nope, let's not get Puka Nacua. Let's get Eric Gray.
Wow.
Womp. Wow. But yeah, I think in the end, I think that assuming the things work out the way I think they're going to work out as far as the roster, Isaiah McKenzie and Tracy Jr. will be the 2 guys that you'll have as kickoff returners. Again, it's not as glorified a spot as it used to be, but we'll have to see what happens with these new rules. It's a whole new rule. It's a whole new
rule. Stopping the kick return. It's a whole new rule.
Oh my. Yeah. So let's talk about the unsung heroes besides the long snapper. We already talked about him. The guys that, quite frankly, run a lot to go try to smack somebody in the mouth, and they don't typically get a lot of credit for it. And that's the special team stars, the guys who are on the coverage teams, the guys who get to the tackles, the guys that, you go, okay, well, he hit them, he stopped, okay, good. But then you don't really look necessarily who hit him, how often he's hitting people. Like, that's one of the things that no one likes to look at, the intricacies of that. That's an important role still, guys. Field position is huge in the NFL. Absolutely freaking huge.
Yeah.
So we signed Matthew Adams to be a backup linebacker this year. He actually had 11 special teams tackles, guys, last year. That's tied for 14th best in the league. Now think about it. That means how many times do you kick the ball off or punt the ball per game?
We do a lot.
4 or 5 times a game?
Yeah, but depending on the game, yeah.
I mean, let's say 5 or 6, even to be on the high side.
3, yeah.
So if we use 5, there's 17 games. That is 85 chances in the season. Of the 85 chances, he got 11 tackles. That's not a bad ratio, guys. That's really not. I mean, again, I have to look up the actual number. I don't know if I can find that stat, but
yeah,
I'd have to look up how many kickoffs and how many punts, I guess, per team. It's a lot of looking up. I'm just saying. It's an impressive number. Now he does replace, though, this year Cam Brown, who had 8 but left in the offseason. But that's still an upgrade, and he actually plays defense unlike Cam Brown. Not necessarily very well, but he plays it.
Yeah.
We also, of course, have Carter Coughlin, who was the surprise guy we brought back, who was basically is a special teamer, and that's all. We thought he'd be gone. They brought him back anyway. And 9 tackles, tied for 24th best in the league on special teams there. Darnay Holmes. There's a guy you don't think about as a special teamer too much. But he had 7 tackles, tied for 48th best in the league. Got Isaiah Simmons making his presence felt, since he hasn't made it felt on the defensive side of the ball as much as people expected when they drafted him. Oops, did I say that? 6 tackles.
Whoops, Daisy.
Tied for 74th. Nick McLeod. Listen, well, here we go.
You're gonna make McLeod! I cut out
to the Corgan there. But yeah, also 6, tied for 74th. So you're talking the Giants have on their roster 4 of the top 74 special team tacklers. That's not too shabby, guys. Think about it. There's 32 teams in the league. So you should average 2.5 per team. We got 5. That's twice as much. The math's not difficult, guys. The math's not difficult, even for me. Hooked on phonics. Even that's reading. Whatever. But yeah, like I said, that's pretty impressive to have that kind of group together at that point there. So you figure we got a great kicker, assuming he's healthy. We got a punter who really stepped it up and moved the needle forward there last year. A veteran long snapper and a former Pro Bowler. You got guys who can and have some experience doing kickoff and punt returns. And now you got tacklers. Like, this is a pretty decent group here. But it could always be better. It could always be better. So we got to ask the question here. Do the Giants need to add a free agent to help the special teams? Now, I will say this. We're going to talk about this in a minute. I kind of feel bad because I made this graphic before today. There's Gary Brightwell, the dearly departed. We'll talk about him in a minute later on in the podcast here. But the big thing is, the simple answer here really, guys, is no. We don't need to add anybody in free agency.
No.
Because we have the main roles filled. The Giants have plenty of holes in this roster still to this day. But the main special teams roles just aren't an issue. Point blank, they're filled just fine. They even brought in former Rutgers kicker Jude I'm going to mispronounce this guy's name again. I always mispronounce his name. McAdamy. Almost sounds like the Academy. McAdamy. Wasn't really talking about him, but yeah, that guy from Rutgers we got in the undrafted free agent. Rutgers like a camp body, but they just brought him in just to have some competition there at that point there. But they're doing what they got to do on special teams. The only thing I see is that we do have a wild card in this. Okay, we have new special teams coordinator Michael Gabriel, who's we don't know what his system is, what he likes to do yet. Maybe there's somebody he's had before on his teams that he's likes that's maybe available. You might see a move like that, I think. But I think that's the only thing that I could see them making a change on. I think otherwise, unless some amazing kickoff returner hits the market, which again, it's not that important anymore, kickoff returns. I can't see that being something we got to get this guy. We didn't even get Gunnar Olszewski till halfway through the season, basically, because we kept on trying to force feed the roll down Eric Gray's throat there. But, so I don't think you'll see much of a change there. I really don't.
Yeah, no. I don't see anything. Like you said, there's too much. There's going to be team there. There's going to be players that's going to be cut from the team. I don't think we're going to add unless, like you said, there's a stud that comes in. But
yeah, no, probably not going to happen. All right, let's get into the last question of the special team segment. There. Oh, we got Rob back. We were frozen for a minute there.
Hey,
Let it go. Let it go.
The internet, let it go.
But let's get into that last segment here as we talk about the special teams and actually wrap up our talk on the Giants rosters here. The Giants special teams, they better in 23 or in 24? And again, we like to give things away in the pictures. We don't want you guys to have to think too hard. I hate thinking. You'll see who's in the picture there. It's new special teams coordinator, Michael Gabriel. So, I mean, that alone is a huge difference there. So you got to think the special teams are going to improve significantly here. You got a pros pro come back, and Graham Gano is going to be healthy. Most of the year, we're getting like random people off the streets to kick. Again, we had our punter had to kick one team. Like we got one kicker. What was the kicker we had? Didn't even make it to the first game. He got hurt in practice the week he was preparing. Like it was insanity. Like I've never seen so many kickers get hurt before in my life. You throw in that coordinator change that frankly should have made a couple of years ago. And no offense to T-Mac, we got a lot of respect for T-Mac on the show. He was here too long, and the message was stale, and that unit's been underperforming for a couple of years now. So I got to think those two moves alone, assuming the Scottish Hammer, Jamie Gillan, is like he was last year and not like he was in 22 there at that point. Assuming that's not a freak year, that's just the new normal, as you like to put it, Rob. If that's the new normal and that's what he's going to be from now on, and Graham Gano comes back healthy, you added, a couple of guys now that do returns. But last year, that was like, I don't know who's going to return. I don't know who's going to return. Oh, we'll just draft Eric Gray. That's basically was the plan. Pretty much. Yeah. Like now we have actual people that can return. You still got Casey Kreider, who's a really good snapper at that point there. I don't really see many holes in the special teams. You lost Cam Brown, but you add Matthew Adams. Again, I don't see a lot of holes in the special teams. This should be a much better unit, I think, than it was last year. So, at least we can say that. Our special teams is better. 1/3 of the roster, if you want to call it that way.
They became the special A team.
Special team pitiful. Good little. I added a little Mr. T while I'm wearing the Giants bling here. So, all righty, guys. Let's break out into Giants news. But before we do that, we're going to pay the bills and go through some comments here.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All righty. John says, this Dalton character, what's his story? Story is you F with him and he'll seal your fate. What's going on? It must be from a movie, I'm guessing. John says, wow, I thought you were talking about me again. The man, the myth, the legend. Nope, wasn't you. He says, I hate you all under 55, LOL. Listen, give me time. In 13 more years, I'll be there. He says, again, I thought you were talking about me, greatest Scotsman. Well, me, William Wallace, and Sean Connery. It's Scottish night. Then Deb says, spoiler, bye-bye, Gary B. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but yeah, that was not what I like to see. And I don't think the Giants like to see it either, but we'll get to it in a minute here. Let's talk about the Giants news.
It's time for the news. Delete, 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 delete.
All right, guys. We had another OTA to talk about there. And again, if you missed the last OTA report we did, because we did 4 as a special edition thing we had put on YouTube, specifically Tuesday during that OTA day. We got OTA 5 here today. And you'll see there's a man there who clearly does not know how to wear a hat. He may look familiar. We'll talk about him in a minute. I never understand people wear hats like that, but whatever.
Makes me think about the early 90s. Who was it? Run DMC used to do that?
It was definitely that kind of thing. So Giants.com put their report up from John Schmelk on all the things going on there. They made it a point to mention the new defensive scheme seems to obviously be geared towards turnovers. Last season, the Giants tied the Ravens for the most takeaways, and we're third in the NFL for interceptions as well. So it's kind of a little bit odd to me that you're focusing on something we seem to be good at already, but whatever.
Yeah. That we've improved on a lot.
There's plenty of things that we suck at.
Yeah.
Look at the tape. It's not that difficult to find things.
Flop.
Dane Belton almost got an interception, a nice play on a short pass attempt to Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm kind of shocked. That's very un-Giant-like to tell you who they almost got the interception and who he's covering at that point. That was weird to me. Like they just missed saying who threw the ball, but still, like that was weird that you should include. Here's who did good. Ignore who did bad.
Fool you.
Deontay Banks also, as I said, looked good throughout the afternoon, including running step for step with Jalen Hyatt on a deep pass. Let's be honest. Being step for step, not step by step. That was a great show back in the day.
I was about to say TGIF.
Yeah, we were talking about Perfect Strangers before we start the show too. At least see who's old enough to remember that show because Rob apparently didn't. But it's not easy to run step for step with Jalen Hyatt. That is one of the fastest men in the entire NFL. So yeah, that's pretty impressive if he was actually doing that there. Get Stanley Thomas Oliver did a nice job running a completion to Miles Boykin. Darnay Holmes was credited with the play of the day by knocking the ball loose and recovering it before bringing it back to the way. What may have been a defensive touchdown in an actual game. Drew Lock hit Wayne.
Bruce Wayne.
I'm Batman. Oh, no, tell anybody. Drew Lock hit Wan'Dale Robinson on a nice 20-yard pass. Jalen Hyatt had an early nice catch, too, on a pass thrown way above his head. Drew Lock threw a touchdown to rookie free agent Yera Sante. We talked about him there during our undrafted free agent talk show we did there. Drew Lock also threw just did that one. Azeez Ojulari got into the backfield and what would have been a sack there during the if it was an actual game. Boogie Basham knocked the ball down at the line of scrimmage. And rookie linebacker Darius Musow looked good in coverage. We talked about that. It's probably going to be his role. He's going to be the guy you bring down in third down areas to stop the tight ends, which is something that the Giants have not been able to do since the end of the Great Depression, it seems like. So
that's what it feels like.
So now the man we talked about there with the weird display of his hat, that was the former great receiver Steve Smith Senior. I have to say it that way. People don't think it's the ex-Giant Steve Smith. No, the ex-Panther Steve Smith. Yeah. And he was seen working with the wide receivers, was hanging out at camp all day long. Him and Dable seem to have a pretty decent relationship, actually. Like he's actually said in the past that Dable's helped him out with some coaching stuff and how to look at tape and stuff like that too as well. So he's been they've gotten a pretty good relationship there going. So who knows? Maybe he'll be a coach for us one day. Ooh. He's got a pretty good thing going though, as far as he's just analyst career at that point there. So we'll see what happens there, but always good to see somebody who did things very well coach up. And if you ever listen to Steve Smith talk, that man can pump you up. Yeah, not quite Ray Rice. He's not Ray Rice. I'm sorry. Ray Lewis, wrong Raven.
Well, Ray Rice will pump you up too. Just gotta watch out how
he'll pump you down.
Yeah,
but Ray Lewis, though, not quite there, but Steve Smith is one of those guys. You hear him talk about football, and the man just has passion for the game. And it's very obvious the second he starts talking. So I'm glad to see that, especially with Malik Neighbors. Like, let's be honest, like, you want a guy like him to have a veteran to look up to. And I think Allen Robinson is probably the best we have on our roster right now. Get a little up there in age, used to be a Pro Bowler, that kind of thing. Steve Smith is the guy that I guarantee he grew up idolizing.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
For him to now have a chance to get a relationship with him, that's priceless. That really is priceless. So, especially because he was a scrappy guy. He was like, what, 5'5"? He's like,
5'7", 5'8", like 185 pounds. So he was a small guy before it was cool to come out of the draft.
They listed him at 5'9". He was like 5'7".
Yeah.
He's absolutely ridiculously tiny. And he just kept on doing it. He's had all that heart, man. So, all right. We got to talk about another move here. We talked about it a minute ago there. That we let go Gary Brightwell and signed Elijah Riley, defensive back there. So Gary Brable, of course, has played 37 games with the Giants over the last few years. He's been drafted in the 6th round back in 21 from Arizona as both a running back and a kick returner. He's officially been waived. They said waived/injured. So what that means basically is they're waiving him with an injury designation. They'll come to some kind of agreement with him money-wise if no one picks him up. And they'll probably buy out his contract basically because you can't cut him loose onto the streets fully if he's injured. So you can waive him with an injury designation. It goes through. A team has a chance to pick him up. If no one picks him up, you go, okay, well, we don't think you're healthy enough to play. We'll give you 50%, 60%, whatever you decide of your salary to make you go away. Which means probably the end of Gary Brightwell's career as a New York Giant, guys. And he never got a chance to play a whole lot as a running back. You never heard a bad word about him. He didn't do too bad in the chances he did get to run the ball. He was a decent kick returner at that point. I can't say anything bad about the guy. I can't say he was a great player. I'm not going to BS that either. He wasn't. But he didn't embarrass himself. That's for damn sure. Not like Rob here, who got stuck on a screen again, I think. Yep, he's stuck. Anyway, Elijah Riley's who we signed. He was an undrafted free agent out of Army back in 2020. He was a finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award in college. Last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, 13 games, 12 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 QB hit, and a 79.8 PFF grades. That's actually a pretty good high rating there for him. He just didn't get a lot of playing time necessarily, but he did, didn't play bad when he got the chance. Played in just 6% of the defensive snaps for the Steelers on those 13 games. And then when he was, on those games, he also played in 62% of the special team snaps as well. So got some good experience there in the special team snaps. As I said, he was originally undrafted rookie free agent, went to the Eagles, spent a little time with the Jets as well. Obviously now the Steelers last year and now us. For his career, 30 games, 7 starts, all back in 21 with the Jets. 62 career tackles, 1 pass deflected, 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 QB hits. Mostly plays the free safety role. Obviously, he's got a little bit of abilities to play other spots as well on there, but that's kind of his typical strong point there to play. It's kind of where you expect him to be most of it there. As far as what he's going to bring to the table, guys, I don't know. I really don't know. But we bring a defensive back in for a workout yesterday. We signed one today. Guys, I got to say, I hate to be like the guy who's being negative about things here, but I try to be the realist, but I'm kind of going to be a Debbie Downer here. Kind of going to be right now. Because if that doesn't draw a flag for you guys, that we brought a guy in for a workout and we signed somebody else and they're playing the same position in a defensive back, reserve defensive back here, guys. Writing's on the wall. That means they're not happy with that group. You don't bring people in if you're happy with the group. You're not bringing guys in to work out. You're not signing guys. You're not doing these moves unless you think this is a weakness of the team. So, I'm not sure who's disappointed them so far in OTAs. Again, all the articles and everything you read can be all fluff pieces. That's just the way it is. But the writing is on the wall. There is somebody there that they are not happy with the way they're playing. So I fully expect that if they brought this guy in, he's got a decent chance to get an actual spot in the roster there because somebody has disappointed them. So we'll have to find out who that is there. So yesterday we talked about the fact that Nico Collins got a big new extension there. We said, hey, wonder what this means for Darius Slayton. Nico Collins had an amazing year, but if you look at their average year, it's not that much different necessarily. Slayton's been a little more, healthy except for the 1 year at that point as well. What does this mean for him? We said, he's a guy that you can see potentially, being compared, and you look at, okay, Slayton's underpaid. Is he going to get a new contract maybe? Is he going to get an extension? Is he going to get more money? As Rob pulls on back here.
I'm back.
But we said that, it wouldn't shock us at all And sure enough, today the news comes out. He's now in the second year, keep in mind, of a 2-year, $12 million contract he signed last offseason. The Giants previously had $1.5 million of incentives for this year. That number's now going up to 2.15. It really seems like the Giants wanted this deal. It really does. I mean, they got a guy that's basically been averaging 700 yards a season. We said it yesterday, the exact number. I think it was like 650 it was. But he had 1 year he was injured and missed like half the year. Every other year that he's played the full season, he's been consistently a 700-yard guy. Even when the Giants have tried to push him off to the side like they did back in 22. Because let's be honest, they tried very hard to push him off to the side.
Yeah, he was like a healthy scratch, but
yeah, he barely played the first couple games. But he was that guy because he is what he is. He's a baller. He may not be that A-tier receiver, but he is that lowercase B tier. Like, he's a legit guy. He's just never going to be a star. Correct. So, but the Giants only gave up a potential $650,000 additional. That's nothing, guys.
Yeah.
It's like they almost gave him something just so they can suggest he won. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of call it too. It's going to be like one of those things they did with Barkley 2 years ago. Like, hey, listen, we tagged you. Here's some money on the side.
Yeah.
This is what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, but I don't know. I feel like it was different with Barkley because Barkley was in the middle of, like, he had no contract signed until they made that agreement. Like, Slayton had something signed. He had an actual contract. To me, was just like, I don't know. I feel like I feel bad for Darius Slayton. And it's like hard to feel bad for a guy who's going to make $12 million in 2 years at least. Like, don't get me wrong. Like,
touche.
Like, it's not like he's going to the poorhouse. It's not like this poor guy's on welfare. He can't afford chicken McNuggets. It's like, that's not what's going on here.
When was the last time you're down? So those chicken McNuggets have gone up big time.
Everything has. I say it all the time. Everything has gone up in price except paychecks. The one that stays steady. But, you look at and you look at what he's done in the field. I know somebody brought up, I forget who, one of the content creators, and I wish I had written down who because they made a very valid point. And they said, if you want to discuss how underappreciated and underpaid Darius Slayton is, just remember that Gabe Davis got a $13 million a year contract this offseason. They're very similar players. I could even make the case that Darius Slayton is a better player.
I was about to say, you can make that case, definitely.
And he's going to make less than 2 years, and Gabe Davis is going to make per year. That's kind of sad. Like I said, I do feel bad for Darius Slayton. Now, at the same point, though, just to counter-argue myself here, he was a free agent last year. Nobody gave him any kind of significant offer. It's not just the Giants that underappreciate what he is. I've said forever that the fans, the fans do as well. But yeah, the whole NFL seems just underappreciate what he does. And it's kind of a shame because he's a good player. Again, he's not your Batman. He's not your Robin. He's maybe your Batgirl. He's your Alfred. I don't know what you want to use.
Batgirl.
I'm just saying, I don't know what you want to do. Like, he's not, like, if he's your guy you're counting on to be your number one or number two, you're probably not doing something right. But if you want to have him
past 2 years,
your number three receiver, your top guy off the bench, he's a great damn option for that. He is. And I still say one of the best draft picks the Giants have had in the last 10 years easily. Because of where they got him and what he's produced. So, we talked about it before where he's climbing up the ranks. We talked about last year. In receiving yards. Like, he has had actually a very similar career, if I remember correctly, to yardage-wise at least, to Sterling Shepard. Like, he's not that far off of him, if I remember correctly. So he's the 21st. He's 21st right now, okay? At 33, 24 yards. Sterling Shepard, assuming he's done as a Giant, which I have to imagine he is, 4,095. He has one more 700-yard season. He's right there.
Touche.
Here's a crazy thing. Let's say he has two more. 2 more 700-yard seasons for the Giants, which I don't think is going to happen. Spoiler alert, I think this is actually the last year we have Darius Slayton. I hope I'm wrong in that. I like him, but I think it's the last year. But hypothetically, if he just, because this is what he does, he just consistently 700 yards. 700 yards puts him at 4,000 yards. Math's not difficult there. Another 7,000 puts him at 4,700. That puts him in the top 10 receiving yard leaders in all-time Giants history, guys. Underappreciated.
Super.
That puts him up there with guys like Chris Callaway, Homer Jones,
Basketball Jones. Oh, wrong sport.
Hakeem Nicks, Ike Hilliard. Ike Hilliard's actually probably not a bad comparison for him.
There you go.
But like I said, I'm not saying he's elite. I'm just saying, especially now as he enters what could be his last year as a New York Football Giant here, let's show a little respect. Let's show a little gratitude for what he did, because he's done a lot for this team. All right, let me get off my soapbox here.
Yeah, get off that Slayton horse.
I'm on my soapbox here. And I think part of why is because I really don't want to talk about our next topic. Because I feel like
let's just put the AI and some auto-tunes on this, and then the second over. Let's talk about this topic.
We're here to talk about
the topic.
Darren Waller. Ooh, haven't seen him in training camp, but we've now seen him on music videos. Darren Waller releases new music video, and it's really bad. Yes, we're not even pulling punches, what we're saying right there in the freaking thing. It's bad. I mean, let me put it this way. When you're doing a song that's almost 100% auto-tune, and I don't mean like auto-tune like was throughout the entire song, because that's a given. I mean, it was maxed out on every single part of the song, and you still heard how bad he was. When auto-tune can't save you, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was bad. He had
he should stick with football.
He had an actress in there who was supposed to be his soon-to-be ex-wife there in Kelsey Plum. She was supposed to be playing her as like a lookalike. To be honest, she didn't look that much like her necessarily, but but the video ends. Spoiler alert, in case you want to watch the whole thing. Trust me, you don't. I did. I
couldn't make it through it.
I listened to the whole thing and watched the whole thing for you guys, the fellow goofballs. Okay, like that's the kind of effort I put into the show. I put myself like through that kind of torture. Like, this would be a great weapon for Guantanamo Bay. That's how bad this freaking video is. Like, seriously,
listen, there's international laws against stuff like that.
There should be, goddamn. But anyway, yeah, the thing ends with the girl who's supposed to be his Kelsey Plum lookalike hugging him on the beach and stabbing him in the back. Is it bad that I really do still want to know what happened to those two? Like, I don't know why. Like, I feel like there's a thing among guys where guys don't like to admit they like to gossip. I love to gossip. I don't give a damn. Like, I don't want to be. I don't want to be in the drama necessarily of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be the guy spreading it, because that just gets you involved in the drama. I want to know what's going on. I'm nosy. That's what it is. I'm like that nosy neighbor. Like,
yeah.
I guess that's probably the best way to word it. But yeah, I'm just very, very curious. So, it's all interesting because that gets released today. We still haven't heard a damn thing whether or not he plans on playing this year. Though obviously the further we get into the off season, the more it looks like he's probably not going to be coming to play there, unless he's just trying to skip training camp. Maybe he's trying to pull a Gronk and skip training camp, but
could be.
We also got one of them. He's just waiting until post June 1st to free up more cash for the Giants when he does retire. Because if he's a post June 1st designation, which to the best of my knowledge, the Giants have not used that, I do believe that we can split the cost. So some of it goes this year, some of it goes next year, and it frees up more money for us there at that point. If that's the case, though, I just don't see who we're going to sign still, guys. I know like people have talked about this already. I don't know who we're going to sign though. Like, let's say if you cut him post June 1st, okay? I'm going to look at it here. That means our dead cap for him is just $2.5 million dead cap. Whereas if the regular cut, it would have been $7 million dead cap. So, yeah, we save $11 million, $11.6 million by cutting him June 1st. But again, we're giving up money next year. So, and who are we going to sign? Unless it's Calais Campbell, like, I don't care. That's the only guy that I'm interested in left on free agency. You know, maybe taking a cheap flyer on Yannick Ngakoue, but if that's the case, you can get him cheap. Then why do you care about freeing up money to get him if he's cheap? I just, you know, I don't know. I don't see much of a path there. Obviously, there's things I don't know. As Deb says, okay, now I have to watch the damn video. You really don't want to do it, but if you want to, the song is called "Who Knew," and then in parentheses, her perspective. I don't know what that means. I've never seen parentheses in a song title like that before. Like, do I include the her perspective part when I say
is it
the
like
song
a remix?
Do I not?
Before?
Listen, you can't remix it. It's been auto-tuned enough. Like, what do you do? Add more auto-tune?
Auto-tune the auto-tune.
This thing sounded so bad. I was waiting for somebody in the middle of it to say "Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto." That's how bad the auto-tune
Domo.
was.
Domo.
It was freaking ridiculous. Oh my god. Yeah. Again, Darren Waller, if you're listening, first off,
come on the show.
I don't know what happened with you and Kelsey Plum, but we're kind of interested here if we want to hear.
You don't need to go on Dr. Phil. Come on.
Yeah, come on here. Yeah. It won't go viral that way. Don't worry.
Dr. Phil definitely has a bigger following.
Yeah. The second thing is, dude, put down the mic, put the pads on. You're not meant to sing. You're just not meant to do. Listen, if you love it, do it as a hobby. Like, I'm not knocking it, but you're making Kadarius Toney look like a Grammy winner. That's how bad this is. Like,
I'm gonna go with the Tony winner.
Like, if you want, like, go be a guy who hangs out at karaoke bars to chill out and have fun. I do it. Like, I'm not knocking that. I'm really not. I'm not even saying you have to be a good singer to enjoy singing. I'm not that person. This is not a profession for you. What you have, and I'm going to level it just like this. What you have is you have people that are taking your goddamn money and are too scared to tell you you don't have what it takes. Because you got people you're paying to make these videos, people you're paying for studio time, people you're paying for equipment, people that are paying for your publicity, people you're paying to edit these videos. Stop paying these people. You suck at it. I'm going to call it very blunt and just say it like it is, and I don't mean to be a jerk about it. Again, if you love it, do it as a hobby, man. Do it as a hobby.
I'm sure someone out there likes it.
I don't know who.
Maybe Plum's sister.
I don't think she does either. She probably doesn't like him very much at all. But like, I'm looking at like every single spot that I found on Twitter where this thing was even on there to see the comments and stuff like that. Not a single person liked it, guys. Not a single person did. And I wish I could play a sample of it for you guys. I just don't want YouTube to take us down. And I feel like they might do that.
Maybe Waller was waiting to see how this went. Like, he's like, oh, people like it. I could retire and make millions doing my rap.
Listen, he has a better chance of calling up Blake Martinez learning how to sell Pokemon. Like, it's bad, guys. It's really bad. I can't say enough how bad it is. I cannot stress it enough. So, Darren Waller. Anyway, guys.
Yeah.
That calls it a night for us. We appreciate you guys listening in as always. Again, we're always live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter /X, Twitch, and of course, Rob's favorite,
Drew's LinkedIn page.
Darren Waller's music video. That's his favorite.
Yes, it actually is. I have the most amount of comments in that
it's
video.
his new ringtone.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're also, of course, available on all the audio podcast platforms the next day as well, as long as Rob hits the right button. Sorry, audio people. He was learning.
Whoops, technical difficulties.
But the nice thing is you got 2 episodes yesterday if you liked.
You got the
double dose since we forgot to put the money one up on the audio. But yeah, again, hit the like, hit the subscribe, guys. It really makes everything easier for us and better for us. So we much appreciate it. That's the easiest way of saying thank you to us for the programming. The other way, of course, is again, buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoopballs. We'll see you guys again on Monday. Monday, we're going to go down a breakdown of all the current battles that there are for different starting positions for you guys there. I thought that'd be kind of fun thing to do there, to talk about that. So that way we can talk about it before it becomes obvious who's going to win and see who we think is going to actually win, and then find out who does actually win and see if we're right or wrong. So we'll end up going through all the different position battles. We'll let you know who we think should win and who we think will win, because that's not going to match up necessarily. Looking at you, Evan Neal. And so that just happens sometimes. So we'll see you guys there. Like I said, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as always.
9.
Unless anything major crazy happens at that point, we'll talk about that instead there. But I think it's a little late in the season for anything major crazy in that season. Yeah, probably. So, all right, guys, we'll see you guys then. Enjoy the weekend. Have a happy, safe weekend there. We're now getting into that summertime there. So go out, enjoy, go for a hike, go to the beach. Is it warm enough to go to the beach yet, Rob?
It is nice enough to be by the water, not nice enough to go into the water yet.
Okay, yeah. See, we're at the time down here in Florida where it's nice and it's perfect. It's warm. The water's not warm yet. Give it like another month or two. It's like bath water.
Yeah,
it's like bath water.
I didn't attempt to go in the water, but I was by the water and it was nice.
Yeah.
Though it cooled down significantly. I was by Asbury Park. I was in Brick and like Forked River, and it like even time it was pretty cool. It was like hoodie weather.
There's no place called Brick. We call it Bricktucky.
It's Brick Township. Thank you very much.
Bricktucky, what? There's even a bourbon called Bricktucky.
It's amazing.
I know there is. It is amazing. All right, guys. We'll see you guys again Monday. Appreciate you guys listening as always. And as always, Giant fans,
go G-Man!
Go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.